Welcome to the Vital Spirit podcast. I'm Dr. Kelly Livingston, a naturopathic physician and your guide to a new health reality, one that connects body, mind, and spirit. Together, we'll dive deep into the art and science of holistic healing. Through working with hundreds of women through midlife transitions, I've discovered something profound. Most of our physical and emotional challenges are rooted in a maladaptive stress response, and true healing begins when we regulate our nervous system. Each episode will explore complex health topics in simple, empowering ways, uncover the deeper wisdom within each of us, and share practical tools for nervous system regulation to help you awaken your vital force and create lasting wellness. So, if you're ready to reconnect with yourself, your health, and your purpose, let's begin this journey together so you can experience life more fully human and deeply healed. Hi, and welcome to the Vital Spirit podcast. I am Dr. Kelly Livingston. If you've been listening along to the Awakening series, then something in you has likely shifted. And if you haven't listened yet, then maybe you're in the exact right place to plant a seed for your own health awakening journey today. I'm so glad that you're here. Because awakening doesn't start when we get sick enough, although that might be the motivation for a patient to give me a call or come into the office. But awakening starts when something inside of you quietly whispers, there has to be more than symptom management, or there must be a deeper intelligence working here, or I think my body is trying to tell me something. You might be more aware of your patterns if you've been following along, or maybe more aware of your symptoms and that they have a message for you. Maybe you're more aware of how long you've been overriding your body in the name of productivity, approval, being needed, being the good one, being strong, being able to carry everything, or just surviving, right? And maybe you're realizing something that's both empowering and a little bit confronting for some women, that you have more power over your health than you have ever been taught. Awakening destabilizes autopilot, but awakening alone does not heal you. Awakening creates responsibility for our health because once you see that you have the capacity to heal, you can't unsee it. Once someone experiences even a glimpse of real healing and actually feeling better, especially in something chronic and something that they've been told, this is just how it is, or you just need a medication for this, you'll have this rest of your life, they become really hungry. In my experience, once a patient feels a little bit better, they become really hungry for understanding. This is why my goal in the first or second visit is to really move the needle symptom-wise. Again, we're not suppressing symptoms, but I want patients to start to have a taste for what it means to work with their body. And then they become hungry for a map, hungry for a relationship with their own body that actually works. And once you see, you kind of have to choose, will I keep overriding my biology or will I enter into a relationship with it? Today's episode is about what that relationship actually means and what the driving force is in the healing process. Because when you sit in my office, I'm not working against your body. I'm working with something, and that something has a name. Vis Medicatrix Naturae. And truly, my work as a naturopathic physician comes down to how well can I listen to your system? How well can I communicate with your vital force and understand what it needs to complete the healing sequence? And then, in my opinion, how good am I at teaching you how to do that on your own? So let's define this clearly. I want you to feel something with me for a moment. I do this often at the beginning of lectures that I give because this concept gets too abstract when we only talk about it intellectually. So humor me for a minute. I'm just going to have you rub your hands together like you're trying to warm them up. Now slowly pull them apart. If you're watching on YouTube, you see that I'm slowly pulling them apart. You only want them to be about, I'd say, 1 to 3 inches apart from one another. And then I like to kind of spin my hands around one another and just feel almost like I'm holding an invisible ball and just feel the energy in between my hands. As you pull them apart, you might feel warmth, tingling, magnetism, pressure, something between them. Some of you will feel it immediately. Some of you won't feel it at all. Either way is fine. This isn't a test, it's a doorway. Because the moment we acknowledge a felt sense field, the moment we admit there's a living intelligence organizing this sensation, we start moving out of reductionism and into relationship with our healing force. Now let's break down the words. Vis means force, Medicatrix means healing, Naturae of nature. The healing force of nature, or you'll frequently hear me say the healing power of nature. But in naturopathic medicine, this is not just romantic language, although it's really beautiful, right? Modern naturopathic medicine defines Vis as the inherent self-organizing, intelligent healing process of living systems, which establishes, maintains, and restores health. Self-organizing, intelligent, and ordered. That word in particular, ordered, is the hinge of this entire episode. Because if healing is ordered, then our interventions must respect that sequence. If healing is ordered, then suppression has consequences. And when there's an order to healing, symptoms are not the enemies. They're phases or communications. They're actually clues as to whether or not our interventions are on the right track. And very often they're clues as to what needs to be done next. And if healing is ordered, then the role of the physician is not to dominate the body, it is to cooperate with this sequence. This is why in episode 2 of the podcast, The Blueprint to Healing, I taught the therapeutic order. So make sure you go back and listen to that if you haven't already. Because naturopathic medicine isn't random. It's not throw herbs at symptoms because they came from the earth and they're natural, right? It's a very disciplined framework that says first, establish the conditions for health, then stimulate the healing power of nature, then support and balance systems, then correct structural integrity, then address pathology, and only then, if needed, suppress. And when you really understand that, you start to see why so many people feel like they've tried everything, but they've actually been skipping sequence. They're doing things out of order, and the body interprets that as chaotic and random, not as the order necessary for healing. And I love that this is where yogic and Chinese medicine language lines up beautifully. Yoga says that the body has an innate intelligence, right? Prana organizes our life force. Ayurveda says health is wholeness and alignment, and disease is disturbance of rhythm, digestion, and relationship with nature. Chinese medicine says there's a natural flow. Qi moves, blood moves, fluid moves, organs communicate, and disease is stagnation, deficiency, excess, or disharmony. Different languages, right? But the same truth. There is a life force, it is intelligent, and it moves in sequence. So let's take a simple analogy and actually unpack it in more depth. If you were to cut your skin, your body is going to initiate hemostasis, inflammatory signaling, neutrophil migration to the area, macrophage activation, fibroblast proliferation, angiogenesis, collagen signaling, tissue remodeling. This cascade is coordinated by cytokine gradients and growth factors. It's not chaotic, it's exquisitely sequenced, and you never have to consciously think about it. You don't have to do anything when you get a cut. Your body heals, your body knows exactly what to do. You don't lie in bed directing platelet aggregation and clotting factors in your mind. You don't think harder to recruit macrophages and get your immune system to do the cleanup job it's meant to do. Your body knows, right? The only thing you really have to do is keep it clean, support the healing process, don't interfere with the sequence, remove obstacles like an infection. And in naturopathic medicine, that phrase, remove obstacles to cure, is not philosophical, it's practical. It's what we do when we first start working together. It means don't keep pouring gasoline on the fire. Don't keep opening a wound. Don't keep sleeping for 3 to 4 hours at night. Aim for 8 to 9, right? Don't keep eating what inflames you. Don't keep living in constant overdrive and hypervigilance, or keep constipating the terrain and expecting it to actually detox. We've talked all about how we need to move things through the body, because inflammation in this context, in the healing context of a cut, is not bad. It's a phase. It's a phase in the healing process. It's one step in the healing process. Now, imagine if every inflammatory response in the body is immediately suppressed without understanding cause or context. If every immune message is just turned off with an anti or a suppressant drug, what happens then? Well, sometimes you get short term relief, and sometimes that's appropriate. But over time, if we repeatedly interrupt signaling and we keep stopping the body from completing this healing sequence, then resolution pathways are never going to fully engage and repair becomes incomplete. And this is the source of chronic illness. When we keep intervening in the healing process and suppressing, we create a terrain where the body is constantly trying to finish something that it never gets to complete. That's when acute healing becomes chronic illness. Vis is not anti inflammation, Vis organizes the inflammation. And I love using a pendulum analogy, or even the analogy of when you're punching a boxing bag, that when you correct aggressively, so say you hit something in one direction, it's going to swing back harder, essentially, right? But if you tune that pendulum or that boxing bag with rhythm, gently, consistently, you're going to restore order. You're going to have a flow to that. And if you hit it, or if you swing something and you try to freeze it mid swing, it's going to fight against you, right? It still has momentum to go the other way. But if you work with its movement, you're guiding it back to center. Healing is very often a return to center. It's actually return to homeostasis and balance, not by force, by relationship. Now, I want to ground this in a little naturopathic lineage and talk for a moment about Henry Lindlar, who I mentioned in the first few episodes as well, the father of nature cure. And he wrote about what he called the unity of disease. So this means that disease is not truly separate categories. It's not 1,000 random different diagnoses. It's varying expressions of disturbed vitality and a disturbed relationship with nature. And he described 3 primary causes: lowered vitality, abnormal composition of blood and lymph, and accumulation of waste or morbid matter. Now, the beautiful part is that we can translate this into modern language. So, lowered vitality, today we might call that mitochondrial dysfunction, dysregulated stress physiology, reduced resilience, and immune exhaustion. Abnormal blood and lymph composition, well, we might call that insulin resistance, oxidative stress, inflammatory markers, dyslipidemia, or nutrient depletion. Accumulation of waste, that's impaired detox, poor bile flow, constipation, microbiome dysbiosis, lymph stagnation, and environmental toxic burden. The language changed, sure, but the physiology didn't. The human body hasn't changed. And this is why naturopathic medicine remains coherent across time, because we're not chasing labels, we're reading patterns. And when you learn to read patterns, you stop asking, what pill matches this diagnosis, right? So many patients ask, especially at the beginning of working with me, have you ever worked on this disease or label before? Do you know what to do for this? Do you have a protocol for that? What would you take for this, right? And that's because they haven't yet been trained in this way of thinking. They don't yet know that there's a vital force we're working with. We're not just labeling symptoms, we're not suppressing. What we do is we start asking, what is the terrain doing here? What is the body trying to complete? What is blocking the healing sequence? That shift alone is awakening. I want to touch for a moment on why this is science and art. And in 2019, Fennell, Snyder, Zeff, and Myers published a paper outlining the origins of the therapeutic order and its implications for research. So this wasn't just philosophical musing, but it was a formal articulation of a clinical framework. And this is the therapeutic order that I've talked about before. They described Vis as both a force and a process. And they explain that the therapeutic order operationalizes that process, meaning we can map clinical decisions as physicians to a hierarchy. Level 1, we've talked about before, is establish the conditions for health, right? Level 2, stimulate the healing power of nature. Level 3, support and balance systems. Level 4, correct structure. Level 5, address pathology with natural substances. Level 6, use pharmaceutical interventions when necessary. Level 7, suppression or surgery. Now, here's the key point I want you to really feel. Most chronic illness is the result of trying to live at level 5 while ignoring level 1. Almost every time. Trying to fix pathology while living in dysregulation. Trying to detox with constipation, trying to regulate hormones or take a bunch of pills or creams or things that are at the top of that therapeutic order while you're still living in chronic sleep debt. So yes, there's a time and a place, right? If you can't achieve the seeds of health, if you can't sleep, and we've tried all of the natural interventions, all the least toxic, least invasive, there might be a time and a place to use something else to help you sleep because you need to sleep to get your body in a healing state. That's where the nuance comes in and the discernment and clinical decision making. I'm not saying there's not a time or a place for those things, but there is an order. There's an order of operations. If we're trying to heal gut inflammation while we're overriding emotions, rhythm, and nourishment, it's not going to land. So yes, this is science. Yes, this is medicine, but it's also art because every person's determinants of health are unique and different. Your diet is going to be different than your friends. Your sleep is different than your neighbor. Your relationships are different than your sister's. Your emotional history is different than mine. Your toxic exposures are going to be different than everyone around you, even if you live in the same environment, because your body might detox differently. Your constitution is different. There are so many variables that we have to take into account when we're working in individualized and holistic medicine. The body is actually a living ecosystem, and the physician is a strategist that is working with nature. So when I'm assessing a new patient's vital force, this isn't mystical. I'm doing it in a systems way, although I love the magic of it too, right? So it's very human. It's very humanistic medicine because I'm really focused on that person's level of vitality and where we need to start. And vitality is visible too. I'm assessing, do you wake feeling rested? Do you look really tired? Does your aura have a drained energy around it? Can you handle stress and recover, or do you stay activated for days? Is digestion efficient, or are you bloated, reactive, constipated, inflamed? Is your immune system balanced, or is it overly reactive? Is it exhausted? Do you feel like you live in your head all the time, or do you actually feel your body? Do you live in your body too much and that scares you sometimes or feels uncomfortable? Are you able to move emotions through you, or do they get stored and converted into symptoms? I'm also assessing some subtle things. Do you trust your body, or are you at war with it? Do you believe that your body can heal? Do you place all of your healing power in external forces outside of yourself, or do you know that you have a lot of control around your health? Because the inner relationship really matters, and belief matters, expectation matters, meaning matters. We have so much robust data now that placebo responses are real physiological responses. They're not imaginary. Some researchers call it the meaning response because the body responds to context, relationship, symbolism, safety, hope, and trust. And spirituality and transcendent experiences have been shown to engage brain networks that are comparable to those involved in placebo responses. That's so cool, right? So I want to say this really carefully. Belief doesn't replace medicine, but if you don't believe that your body can heal, it's likely that it won't. Because belief modulates medicine, and it modulates physiology, which is why Viktor Frankl's logotherapy is so powerful. When a person finds meaning inside suffering, their biology actually changes. Not because the pain becomes pleasant, but because the nervous system shifts from threat to coherence. And that shift is a doorway for the vis. Now, I do want to name something else here. For some people, healing doesn't feel safe. And we don't need polyvagal theory lens to understand this, but I've talked through that in previous episodes. Yoga has said this for thousands of years. When the system is in agitation, the mind cannot settle. When the system is in heaviness, the body cannot mobilize. Healing happens in clarity, coherence, and rhythm. In Ayurvedic medicine, they would say when vata is aggravated, the system is dry, anxious, unstable, ungrounded. When pitta is aggravated, the system is inflamed, intense, hot, and reactive. And when kapha is aggravated, the system is congested, stagnant, heavy, and resistant. Chinese medicine would say liver qi can get constrained and you might see tension, irritability, anger, digestive disruption. Spleen qi might be deficient and you'll see fatigue, loose stools, worry, poor digestion. When there's dampness in the system, you see heaviness, brain fog, mucus, stagnation. When there's dryness, you're going to see tightness and irritability. These systems have been describing what modern medicine is finally circling back toward, that your state matters, your internal climate matters, and patterns matter. So when a patient says, I've tried everything and nothing is working, sometimes what they really mean is my system is not in a state where it can complete the healing sequence. And that's why mindfulness, breath work, rhythm to our day, time spent in nature, and giving inputs and messages of safety to our body mind are not soft suggestions, they're biological prerequisites to healing. And this is why I teach foundational practices first. Not because we're avoiding medicine. Like I said, there's a time and a place for that. But I think what's so amazing about being a practitioner in the state of Connecticut, where as naturopathic physicians, we were trained to utilize pharmaceuticals and surgery when need be, but we actually don't have scope of practice to do that in Connecticut. So you get really good at working with the vis and being in communication with the body. I just think that's such a special part of my profession and my career as a naturopath in Connecticut, because the seeds of health are truly regulatory inputs. They change the terrain. The foundational work needs to be done first. Mindfulness and breath work are shifting stress signaling. They're restoring internal rhythm. Hydration and hydrotherapy, we're supporting circulation, elimination, immune tone. Through lymph love, seed of health, we're reducing stagnation, because stagnation is where inflammation lives and it's the breeding ground for disease. When we're using food as medicine, we're stabilizing blood sugar, we're reducing inflammatory triggers, we're rebuilding the microbiome. When we're moving our body, we're improving circulation, mitochondrial function, insulin sensitivity, and mood. When we're focused on relationship and community seed of health, we're working on co-regulation, belonging, all which reduces inflammatory tone. And when we're spending time out in nature, connecting to something within ourselves and something bigger than ourselves, we're reorienting beyond fear. And yes, this is all changing physiology. We are connecting in safety to our vis. Sleep, play, and relaxation, right? We're repairing our body. We're letting our body heal. We're using hormone signaling like oxytocin to tell our body we're safe and get our nervous system to downshift if it's hypervigilant, and maybe to get it a little more movement and energy if it's been in shutdown. All of these daily seeds of health practices are the soil, and the vis is the seed that is growing and providing the healing force to this process. If the soil is depleted, no remedy lands well. So let's talk a little bit about energy medicine here. I use a lot of homeopathy and flower essences and biofield work, and they can be controversial if patients don't understand them at first, because they challenge a purely materialistic framework. But clinically, I observe something very consistent. When inflammation is lower, when elimination pathways are open, when the person is more embodied or able to regulate, when the system is more coherent, those subtle interventions land better, essentially. So I might use some of those in the beginning of working with a patient, but I've said this before, if I'm able to kind of clean out the system and remove those obstacles to cure, then those subtle frequency and energy medicines are just going to work that much better. And now we also have early research signals that healing intention may produce measurable biological changes in lab models too. So this is why kids respond so beautifully to homeopathy in my practice. Their systems haven't accumulated decades of stagnation and interference and trauma, ideally. Their terrain is less burdened and they're way more responsive. Remedies land so quickly in kids. And they're not intellectually blocking. They're just living. They're taking their remedy and it's doing its job. And their vis moves so easily in systems that are not clogged with chronic overriding. I feel like I want to mention biohacking here. Not because it's wrong, but it's often missequenced. And very often it's a symptom of disconnection. So if we're using red light therapy, but we're not getting out in the sun and we're not exposing our eyes to sunlight in the morning, then it's not going to land the same. And if we're using grounding mats, but we're not getting out and touching the earth, that just seems silly to me. And all of these energy frequencies, remedies, hacks essentially are based on the fact that we're not getting out in nature and doing the things that our body was meant to do. If we're cold plunging without nourishment and rest, we're often doing these things out of order and we're overriding or hacking the system. I don't even like that term. So I will very often get asked, what about this new detox or this new thing or this new mat or this light? And to me, it feels like we're just trying to engineer our way back to nature with something external that's not natural, but nature cure is foundational. So sure, I've talked about exposure to light in the winter when maybe we can't get outside as much. There might, again, be a time and a place, but we have to get outside. We have to get outside in the sunshine, outside in the fresh air. We have to utilize nature cure consistently, daily, in a rhythm. And then those things might be extra additions. We don't just go right to those things. And that is something I'm seeing more and more of nowadays, where patients just want to use a device or take a pill. And I promise you that those are not long lasting cures and they're not communicating with the vis the way that nature truly does. Sunlight, air, water, movement, rest, connection, food. It's not hacking, it's returning the vis to its intended state. And in midlife, when ovarian signals are shifting and adrenal compensation gets exposed and insulin sensitivity changes and inflammation is less tolerated, your body essentially says no more to autopilot. And it really needs to be centered back into the rhythms of nature and remind the vis of what it's meant to do. Evolutionarily in tribes, grandmas and women who had gone through menopause were the ones who would go and forage and bring food back to the tribes, right? So they were off having time alone. They were off evolving and transitioning into that new being that they were meant to be. And regulators of community rhythm too, and reminding, get outside, connect into nature. And we're just not doing this anymore. So if midlife feels like everything is unraveling, sometimes it's because the body is saying, I'm done living against nature. And my role as a physician is to remove interference, is to strengthen foundations and support physiology. So I respect this nature and sequencing, and I trust the beast. And it's not passive medicine, it's very disciplined medicine, but there is nuance and there are subtleties to this. When I'm working with a patient's vis, it requires discernment and restraint and knowing when not to intervene, because sometimes the highest medicine is allowing the healing process to complete. And when obstacles to cure are removed, the vis expresses. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I think the beauty of this work is. It's relationship with vis. And then my favorite part is teaching you how to have a relationship with your vis and know how to heal. And I want to say even more clearly, when I say work in relationship with the vis, I mean that quite literally. So sometimes that relationship is expressed through hands-on medicine. In biodynamic craniosacral work, we speak of something called the breath of life, not the respiratory breath, but it's a deeper organizing force. And it feels, when you have your hands on a patient, it feels like a tide. There's what we call the primary respiratory motion, which is a subtle rhythmic expansion and contraction that expresses through the tissues. It expresses through the cranial bones, the sacrum, the fascia, the fluid in the body. And beneath that is described the long tide, which is a slower, more global rhythmic ordering movement. Beneath even that is dynamic stillness, not absence of motion, but a field of organizing potential. And I sometimes refer to this as a still point. So when I place my hands gently on someone's cranium or sacrum, I'm not manipulating bones forcefully. I'm listening. I'm listening for motion or restriction or coherence. I'm listening and feeling for bracing, where that patient holds chronic stress, trauma, inflammation, emotions. All of it leaves signatures in tissue because the body adapts, it tightens, it compensates, and force only increases that guarding. But attuned, really non invasive contact does something totally different. The system senses that safety, and when safety is perceived, unwinding begins. Sometimes patients will have a spontaneous breath or a tremor. Sometimes they'll cry, or the area of the body will get really warm under my hands. Sometimes there will be just profound stillness. And I'm not imposing change. I'm creating conditions under which the breath of life, or the vis, can reorganize the system. And this is true relational medicine. It's disciplined restraint and it's cooperation with the sequence of healing and the healing force. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about a patient. She was mid-40s, perimenopausal, really successful in life in the sense of she was really happy in her marriage. She had healthy kids. She had a job that she loved, very high functioning. But she did come to me experiencing chronic daily anxiety. She had migraines regularly. She was having IBS flares, and she was told that her labs all looked fine. She was waking at 3 a.m. On labs that I ran, we did find that she had low ferritin. I talk about that all the time. And other than that, she really did actually have normal-ish labs, even though I was doing more in-depth workups. She had already tried taking magnesium, probiotics. She had done some elimination diets. I think she had taken gluten out at that point. She had tried hormone replacement, actually topical creams, and some other functional medicine practitioners' protocols, but she didn't feel better. And here's what was interesting. When she spoke really fast and her jaw was really tight. I could immediately see that tension in her jaw in her first visit. And her breath was super shallow. So her shoulders were kind of up by her ears, and you could just see that she was clenching essentially. So her labs told part of the story. And often when there's not anything in labs, that's information, right? And her body told the rest. Her vitality wasn't gone, but it was constrained. Her system was bracing. So I knew that I wanted to communicate to the system first and foremost, you are safe. So we stabilized blood sugar, we supported her iron gently, we regulated her sleep rhythm with light exposure, and we improved her bowel regularity. We reduced those obvious obstacles to cure, and then we added something else, hands-on craniosacral work. And through that work, I was communicating with the vis saying, I'm here, you're safe, you can complete what you never finished. And in her case, that is exactly what her system needed. And my goal is always to also teach patients how to do these things at home on their own to tap into that healing force. So her migraines reduced first, and then her IBS flares started spacing out and getting less frequent. She was sleeping through the night, not because we suppressed symptoms. We actually didn't even use a lot of supplements at all. Not because we overrode her physiology, but because once obstacles to cure were reduced, once safety was reintroduced to the system reorganized itself. Just like when you have a cut. And that's what I mean when I say I work in relationship with the vis. Sometimes that relationship looks like labs and supplements. Sometimes it looks like hydrotherapy and breath work. And sometimes it looks like my hands quietly listening to a cranial rhythm, waiting for the body to soften, and then teaching patients how to do that themselves. That is medicine. And what's so cool, the longer that I practice this way, is that when someone's vital force is really depleted, the cranial rhythm feels weak or shallow or sometimes chaotic. It feels disorganized. And then when someone's vitality is strong but braced, it feels powerful, but it feels restricted, like it can't flow. And when someone is coherent, it feels fluid, rhythmic, and expansive. And you don't need to believe in anything mystical to understand this. This is physics. And we know that connective tissue carries electrical charge. We know fascia transmits mechanical signaling. We know touch regulates the nervous system. We know that this communicates safety to the body, and it has a huge impact even on autoimmune disease, right? We know all this now. Science has caught up, just like microbiome science caught up. The science is there. And I think what's missing is this being taught to patients. This is relational physiology. But from a naturopathic lens, it's also communication with the healing force of nature. And if you take anything home from this episode, it is that you can work with your own vis. And this is the point of everything I do. So, yes, I order labs. Yes, I might use supplements or herbs or food and hydrotherapy and nervous system medicine. Sometimes I place my hands on the body and listen. But the deeper point is this: my job is not to become the authority over your healing. My job is to teach you how to work with your own vis, because Vis Medicatrix Naturae is not something I give you. It is what you are. It is what has been trying to organize you back toward health your entire life. And the reason so many people stay stuck is not because they're missing the perfect protocol. It's because they've lost the ability to hear their own system. They've been trained out of listening. They've been trained into overriding, into putting their health in an expert's hands, and into taking a pill to fix every ill. They've been trained into rushing, fixing, pushing, and performing. So the first medicine for almost everyone is restoring the ability to perceive, to sense, to receive feedback from our system, to let the body speak to us. And that requires one thing before anything else: safety. When your nervous system is in fight or flight, you can't hear the vis. When your system is braced or vigilant or flooded or spinning, you can't feel the subtle signals, or sometimes those subtle signals don't feel so subtle, they feel uncomfortable. When your nervous system is chronically dysregulated, you can't feel hunger and fullness clearly. You can't feel when you need rest. You can't feel when something's a yes or a no intuitively. You can't feel when the body is whispering before it starts screaming at you. So if you want to begin working with your own healing intelligence, here's where you start. You're going to hear me say this over and over again. You get quiet, not as spiritual performance, but as clinical medicine, a nervous system in training. This is vagal tone rehabilitation, because vagal tone is what gives you access to regulation, and regulation is what gives you access to perception. And perception is what allows that healing relationship to occur. So here's a simple practice you can do right now. Put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Inhale slowly through your nose, and then make the exhale longer than the inhale. Let your jaw soften, let your shoulders drop, and just ask gently, body, what do you need today? Not what you think you should do, not what your mind says is productive or healthy, but listen. Close your eyes even. Body, what do you need today? And listen. Even if you hear one small message: drink water, eat some protein, have a piece of fruit, go outside, cancel that meeting that's stressing you out, take a nap, take a deep breath, call a friend, move your body, get in the sun. I don't know what message your body will have for you, but I promise it will have something. That's you building relationship with the vis. That's you learning the language of your own healing force. And from this day forward, when you have a symptom, whether it's thirst or a headache or anxiety, start asking yourself, what is this trying to tell me? And if you want support doing that, if you want a structured way to build the soil, remove the obstacles to cure, and follow sequence, here's what I recommend. Start with nervous system regulation. Start with vagal tone. That's not being calm all the time. That's having flexibility and capacity to move in and out of nervous system states so that your body is getting the message of safety and your body is getting into a healing state. Because when your nervous system can downshift, your body can redirect energy from survival into repair. So as always, I have a free resource for you, my vagal tone guide, which you can download in the show notes. And in it, I walk you through simple, doable practices that train your nervous system towards safety so you can actually hear your vis again. And if you're ready to go deeper, to work through this in sequence the way that I do with patients, then you'll love the deeper work I do inside my Vital Spirit method. Because the entire point is not dependency on a practitioner. The point is sovereignty. It's teaching you how to become fluent in your own biology. how to work with your own healing intelligence, and how to stop overriding your system. And definitely how to let the healing power of nature do what it was designed to do. So thank you for being here. If this episode landed, please share it with someone who's ready to stop fighting their body and start listening. I'll see you next week on the Vital Spirit Podcast.